You are now watching Maine Wire TV with your host, Tom Shattuck, featuring Maine Wire Editor-in-Chief Steve Robinson and the indispensable John Featherston.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ray Richardson of WLOB Radio and Common Sense for Maine, and I'll be moderating the debate tonight. We have a unique and interesting forum that I think will inform you about the seven gentlemen sitting up there in front of us. I think it'll be fun and exciting. Before we get started, just one quick thing. You know how the rumor mill is in politics. I want to make it clear to the seven men sitting on the stage, to the people in this room, and to those watching on the Maine Wire. I have not, nor will I, endorse a candidate in the primary. I have not, nor will I, raise money for a candidate in the primary. I will not introduce people. I'm playing neutral moderator, and on my talk show, we are having each of these wonderful gentlemen here on the show as often as we can. I am neutral in this primary. It'll get partisan on June 10th. Thank you. Elizabeth Jordan is here tonight. She's going to lead us in a prayer. Would you please stand?
Okay, let's pray tonight. As we just come through the month of February, and many among us in this room had a Lincoln Day event, my thoughts went back to our 16th president, who lived in a very dividing time, just as we do, with turbulence everywhere. And in July 1861, the Civil War had just started. Lincoln was newly elected. He created an act declaring September 26th as a national day of prayer and fasting. He wrote, and this is my prayer, and I hope you'll pray it with me. These are the words of Abraham Lincoln. It is fitting and becoming in all people at all times to acknowledge and revere the supreme government of God, to bow in humble submission to his chastisement, to confess and deplore their sin and transgression in the full conviction that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And now I'm going to go to my words and pray. In our own troubled times here in Maine, we've come to realize that unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it, and that's from Psalm 127:1. I am praying, and I hope you'll pray with me, that we will humble ourselves and ask for God's wisdom that comes out of the fear of the Lord. We pray tonight for this wisdom, for guidance, for unity, for discernment, and help to all those who are here. We thank you, Lord, for the great group of men we have before us. We thank you for this deep bench we have here in Maine. That's a blessing, Lord. We thank you for all who are speaking, assisting, serving, those who are listening, and those of us who are learning. We thank you, Lord, for this 250th year of our independence, and pray that each person here will sense your call on them for the part they are to play in this fight for our liberty. And we pray that this evening's event will be to the honor and glory of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Elizabeth. Please remain standing. Before we do the pledge, Jonathan Bush's wife, Faye, got hold of me today. Today is Jonathan's birthday. Come on, a little louder, folks. We can do better. It's his birthday. Thank you. Please say the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Doug Sachs is the chair of Common Sense for Maine, and he has some opening remarks.
Good evening. My name is Doug Sachs. It is my great honor to welcome you. Drum roll. to the fourth Common Sense for Maine gubernatorial debate of the 2026 political season. Thank you to the candidates who have chosen to be here, to Ray Richardson for moderating, and to Dominic Gutierrez for hosting us once again at this beautiful venue. Thank you. Thank you to the Maine Wire for live streaming this debate and for all the media here that will, of course, report fairly on tonight's Republican event. And thank you to all the Common Sense for Maine members who've worked very hard to make tonight possible. Common Sense for Maine remains single-mindedly committed to turning Maine red in 2026. That is, winning the majorities in the House and the Senate and winning the White House. We named ourselves Common Sense for Maine because we believe that it's only common sense to vote out of power the Democrat Party that has made life in Maine so wildly unaffordable. We believe it's only common sense to vote against a Democrat Party that prioritizes illegal aliens and fraudsters over Mainers in ways that make our communities more dangerous and more broke by the day. And it's only common sense to vote against the Democrat Party that has destroyed our education system by insisting on DEI over the 3 Rs and by allowing biological males to invade our girls' locker rooms. Like no time in recent history, the terrain of common sense is monopolized by the Republican Party, because nearly everything out of the mouths of Democrat politicians could best be called uncommon nonsense. The Republican Party is far from perfect, but as our president said in the State of the Union address, those people are crazy. And yet the Democrat Party dominates all levels of power in our state. It's certainly not because of better leaders or better policy, but rather it's because of its domination of our propaganda media and because of an extreme advantage in resources. If you take all the money in Maine held by Democrats and Republicans together, 70% of it is held by Democrats, and they know how to use it. Which means from only a few years ago, the tables have turned. The Democrats are now the party of big money and all the advantages it buys, and the only way to overcome it is for the Republican Party to embrace a new grassroots identity that used to belong to the Democrats. Grassroots is a word that gets thrown around a lot in politics. But in reality, it just means overcoming our economic and systemic disadvantages by, as regular folks, taking matters into our own hands. Each one of us, one by one, increasing our engagement, and then mobilizing together to do whatever we can in our homes, in our communities, online, to save Maine by turning it red and doing it now. So, in that spirit, I'd ask you to please stand if you believe that Maine desperately needs Republican leadership and an end to the Democrat rule in Maine. Now, here's the grassroots part. Please stay standing. Please stay standing. If you are willing to commit to do more than you individually have ever done before to make that happen, to become not a mere spectator, but an agent in determining what comes next for us and our children here in Maine. That's wonderful. Look around the room. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for making that commitment. Please be seated. Next Thursday night, we'll be holding a candidates night here at Dunegrass, March 19th, organized by our very own Jim Booth, who's doing an amazing job with that event. And we're going to have, you'll have the opportunity to hear from many of the common sense candidates running for the House, Senate, and for governor, and have an opportunity to connect with them and find out how you can individually help them get over the line. So please come out for that next Thursday here in Dunegrass. So, to tonight's debate. Tonight's debate has been designed to clarify in an energetic way the differences among these candidates so that you and all Mainers can make an informed decision about who you feel would be best to lead Maine into the future. The debate will consist of 4 segments. In the first, candidates will, in real time, will in real time draw a pre-written question that they've never seen before, and they'll each read them aloud and then answer them. And for each question, 2 other candidates will have a shorter opportunity to respond. In segment 2, the candidates will in real time draw the name of one of their opponents, and then we'll ask that opponent any question they want, and the 2 will engage in a short back and forth on that topic. In the 3rd segment, Ray will ask each candidate a specific question about their plans to improve Maine's economy. And in the 4th, we have some VIP guests in the audience who will ask the candidates some questions, and then Ray will ask the candidates the best questions from his radio audience. We hope you enjoy the evening and are able to take a step forward in supporting one of these excellent candidates with the information you need. Without further ado, let's hand things over to the one and only Ray Richardson and our debate participants for the main event.
Thank you, Joe. So we're going to open with a 1-minute introduction from each candidate. Why don't we start with you, Ben Mitchell? We'll just go right down the line.
I haven't done this in 1 minute before, so it's going to be quick. So I am from outside of the world of politics. I am not a politician, a lobbyist, a bureaucrat. I'm outside of that world. I grew up in Maine, as did my wife Sonia, who a lot of you know. We have 3 kids. They all grew up here. We still have one in high school. I never made it out of college. Could not afford it. I personally spent time on unemployment and food stamps. Got through that, and then I spent 30 years in the fitness industry. I became the president of a franchise company called Planet Fitness. I left there, started another company called Crunch Fitness Franchising. Over 15 years, built that to the #1 fitness company in the U.S. I had over 500 locations in 46 states and 6 countries, 3 million members, over $1 billion in revenue, and I created 15,000 jobs building that company. I am running for governor to bring strong, common sense, conservative values and principles back to the governor's office.
Thank you, Ben. Jonathan Bush is next.
Hello. Does that work? Oh, there it goes. Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan Bush. I am a father of 7 great Americans who all want to live in Maine, but they want to have the American dream. So we got to work that out for them here tonight. I am the husband of a brilliant CEO who's a little crafty, it turns out. We are, my family, going back 100 years in Maine, and Kennebunkport, and hers going back 7 generations on what is now Jeff's farm, actually. I'm an entrepreneur who built 1,000 jobs in Maine. I think I'm the only candidate who could say that. I'm a fanatic Maine optimist, and I like running towards fires, because I find when you do, that you meet the best people you'll ever know. Today, the fire is definitely coming from Janet Mills, Augusta. This woman has driven Maine to the top of every list you don't want to be on, at the bottom of every list that you need to top. And so we must cut our taxes and shrink our Augusta, reverse the woke agenda, and bring back the American dream.
Thank you, Jonathan. Robert Wessels is next.
Did you know that if you wanted to start a healthcare company right now, you would have to ask your government for permission? Did you further know, as if that's not bad enough, that they would go to your competitors in your community and find out if there's a need? It's called a certificate of need. You can check it out. There are hundreds and hundreds of these stupid laws that are holding back our economy. My name is Robert Wessels. I'm a limited government candidate, and my goal is to get rid of so many of these regulations when I get in. I'm a businessman, spent the last 20 years in retail management, and my wife, Christy, and I live over in South Paris, and we have 3, I can't call them children, but they're here, they might throw something at me, 17, 19, and 21, and we've homeschooled them all the way through, and I will tell you that's been one of the best parenting decisions we've made. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Up next is David Jones.
My name is David Jones. I am going to be your next governor. I ask each and every one of you tonight to please support me as the nominee. I've been married to my wife Nancy for 40 years. I have 6 children, 3 boys, 3 girls. I have 8 grandchildren, 4 boys, 4 girls. I am fair and balanced. I I guarantee you that. I've been a warrior against these ridiculous rules and regulations they've been putting on us with the woke agenda, DEI, SEL, CRT. As governor, I promise you, the stupidity will stop. When I become governor, the only 2 flags are going to be in the classroom are the American flag and the Maine flag. And you want a guy who's going to go up there, when things happen, I will be your guy. I'm not doing this for a job. I don't need a job. When I told my wife I was going to run for governor, she just looked at me and said, "You're what?" Well, I'm here. I'm here because I care. You're here because you care. And I want each and every one of you to remember my name. I promise you, I will do the job you want done.
Thank you, David Jones. Owen McCarthy is next.
My name is Owen McCarthy. I grew up in the shadow of Mount Katahdin in a trailer on my grandfather's land, the son of a 3rd-generation logger and a 2nd-generation lunch lady. Growing up in Patton, Maine, you learn a lot about hard work, watching your dad go to work at 2 a.m. and come home at 6 p.m. You learn a lot about accountability because anything you do wrong, your mom gets a phone call 5 minutes later and you get disciplined for it. And the schools were good when I went through them. They were 4th in the country. They're no longer on the Pulp Paper Scholarship. Studied engineering and worked in our heritage industries and know those very well. I became an entrepreneur, started multiple companies, raised $60 million into my company, Med Rhythms, right here in Maine. And the reason why I'm running for governor is because of 100% because of policy decisions that if I look across Maine today, the next generation, like my sons Oliver and Theodore, don't have the same opportunity that I have. And for the hardworking Mainers in the audience, it's no longer affordable to be here, and we need to fix that.
Thank you, Owen. Up next is Jim Libby.
Hi, I'm Jim Libby. I am a 14th generation Mainer and proud to be so. I live in Standish, Maine with my wife Jenny. We have 2 children, one's in college and one's about to be in college. And we have the entertainment here today, so I hope you enjoy us. Well, at least I'll be part of the entertainment. If you think about all the things that I've done in the past, it kind of characterizes why I'm running for governor. And I've worked at GTD Sylvania. We made circuit breakers for automobiles. I've been a college professor. I've been dean of a college and the director and a founder of a graduate program. I've created a lot of jobs myself, especially there's actually a scientific study that'll tell you that I've created about 3,000 jobs per year because I was the founder of the BETTER program, the Business Equipment Tax Rebate program. And I want you to know that there's a bill right now in the legislature to eliminate that program, which basically will be a tax increase on all our businesses in Maine. So I'm going to stop that from happening. And I'm actually going to stop as well because I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Up next is Garrett Mason.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Garrett Mason. I am a husband. I am a father. Speaking of which, I know my daughter's going to bed. Good night, Piper. I'm a business owner at an award-winning public affairs firm. I've been a state senator. I'm a county commissioner, and I would really love to be your next governor. You know, I think different times call for different leaders. And sometimes you need a wrecking ball. Sometimes you need a finished carpenter who can go in there and get the job done the first time, be ready to go on day one. I think that's what I'm offering in this race. I've been lucky enough to own my own business and write my own paycheck. I've also had the experience of being in government for 8 years, 4 of those as Senate Majority Leader. Yes, Republicans had the majority in the state Senate for quite a long time. So tonight, we're going to learn a lot about each other. We're going to learn a lot about our positions. The one thing I can tell you is I will be ready to go on day one when I get to the White House. Thank you for your time, and thank you for Common Sense for doing this debate. I think it's much needed.
Thank you, Garrett. So tonight, in the role of Vanna White, is the lovely Julie. Julie, wave at everybody. That didn't go as well as I thought it would. So in this round, each candidate, Julie will give them a jar. They'll pull a question, they'll read it, and they will answer it themselves. The candidates will have 90 seconds to answer, and then if there is any response, I choose 2 of the people to respond. Not everybody will get a chance on every question. So Julie, why don't we start with Garrett Mason because you're standing there.
It's like a paragraph. In the last 5 years of Democrat control, Maine has led the nation in the percentage increase in home prices, making homes unaffordable for a huge portion of our state's residents. Why has this happened here in Maine more than in other states? And if elected governor, what specifically will you do more to make home ownership more affordable in Maine? That's a really good question, and one that I'm very passionate about. I think when you look at home ownership, we obviously have a very stagnant real estate market. We also have a very expensive real estate market. We have an 80,000 home gap in what we need to build to just keep up with demand. For a long time, Maine's housing market has been insulated from, I think, a lot of the other trends. During COVID, people found out that Maine's a really cheap place to live, and it's a really nice place to live. And that drove housing costs way, way up. My wife and I know all about this. We have a business called the Maine Home Collective. We build small homes under 1,000 square feet. I can tell you it's very expensive to buy a house in Maine. And simply saying that we're going to build our way out of this mess is not enough. Yes, we have to do that. In my wife's business, I can tell you, it takes 6 months to build a home, especially a small one like we build. You also have to release people's capital. How many of you are stuck in a home that maybe you want to get out of, but you're staying there because you have a low interest rate? I think there's a lot of people like that. I'm one of those people. We need to be able to work with banks and credit unions to make that debt movable. You should be able to take that debt with you to another home so you can keep your payment. What does that do? It makes your house free for somebody who wants to get on the property ladder, and it makes you able to go out and buy a new home. We have to tackle all of these things at the same time. We have to build more, and we have to release people's capital. Thank you.
Thank you, Garrett. So the way this will work is, first two to raise their hand will go to, you get 30 seconds, David Jones.
Yeah, it's working. Hello.
Thank you.
Can everybody hear me? There we go. There we go. All right, so I'm telling you, I've been building my entire life, and Garrett, when you hit the nail on the head. There's a thing that President Trump is trying to do. It's called a portable mortgage. And what that will do, it will allow you to take that mortgage that you have on your home right now and transport it to a new purchase. So I would tell you, you want to support this move because it'll help, it'll free you out of the home that you're stuck in, that you won't leave because of the interest rate, and it'll open up another home for the younger couples that want that bigger house today.
Thank you, David. Dr. Bush.
There we go. This opens up a topic that I think we need to cover throughout the night, which is, do we want a governor who's going to invent new programs, but they're Republican programs? Or do we want a governor who's going to shrink Augusta? Every time I hear about a new program coming from a Republican, I'm like, let's be Democrats then. This government has gotten way too big. We must pull it way back. If we pull back building codes, if we pull back programming, if we simplify licensing, we will see a housing boom.
Thank you, John. Julie, would you please give me a question? We're doing this, folks, in an effort to make sure that everything is completely fair.
Go woke, go broke. Yeah, I agree with that. That's precisely what many Mariners believe has happened to Maine and its economy under Democrat control. If elected governor, what specifically would you do to restore merit and excellence as the North Star in hiring and policy decisions, instead of hiring, promoting, and making policies on the basis of skin color, gender, and sexual orientation? Okay, well, that's a good question. Let's talk a little bit about what I have been doing. So in the Senate, I stood up and I led the effort. I used to be a basketball coach, and I coached women. I coached the Gorham High School women 2 times into the tourney, and really enjoyed that civic center experience with them. And so I stood up and I said, we are not going to allow men to play in female sports. And if you think about that for a minute, that's a real North Star, because Actually, the Democrats want that to happen. Can you imagine that? And that's what gives us the best possibility of winning this year, is that some of the positions that the left have taken are so far outside the norm that we are in a position where we can really take advantage and win in November. So I'm really excited about that. I think we're really, it's very important for us to be able to lead. So as an educator, one of the things I would say is we need better training. We need good teacher training. So teacher training is something that we actually have been rated as a D and in some areas an F. If you look across the spectrum of what colleges and universities are doing to train our young teachers to get into a position, frankly, when they get into a teaching position, they're not ready to teach. And they're teaching using things like worksheets and really not ready. So unfortunately, we really need to turn that upside down and improve teacher training and educate our kids and be ready for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Garrett Mason, you have 30 seconds to respond.
I can tell you the easiest thing that you can do, and you can do it right now. You can go to protectgirlsportinmaine.com and donate to the effort to make girls sports girls and boys sports boys. That's probably the biggest thing you can do. Because when we get in there, it'll be a really nice boost to the next Republican governor to not have to reinterpret Title IX. So you want to deal with wokeism? Vote yes in November on the Protect Girls Sport referendum.
Thank you, Garrett. Dr. Russell, you have 30 seconds. Follow up.
Thank you. Yeah, education is absolutely critical. Number one, we're failing our kids. And one of the reasons, one of the many reasons, is because we're teaching them the wrong alphabet. We're teaching them DEI, CRT, SDL, right? They need to be doing math, reading, writing, literacy, history. Okay, so we have to do that. But as governor, I have to go through and work, get rid of Maine Department of Education or reduce it. And we have to figure out what they're pushing and get the right stuff to our kids because it is absolutely critical. We also need school choice to increase competition in our public schools.
Thank you, Rob. Julie, would you please fill out the question? Oh, and you have 90 seconds once you've read the question.
In 2023, Children's Alliance report found that Maine leads the nation in child abuse rates, which are twice the national average, and under Democrat control, far too many children have died under DHHS supervision. Why do you believe Maine suffers from such high child abuse rates? And if elected governor, what will you do to protect the most vulnerable children? The first thing to do on this question is DHHS is way too big. We need to remove Child Protective Services out from underneath it, shine a light on it. And then second, we need to hire what I call a wartime leader for that organization. That is someone that comes in, no BS, and solves the problems, because no kid that dies on my watch no kid will die on my watch. Third is there's too many cases per caseworkers, and we need to make sure that we rebalance that and we get the people to training. I have released a plan, Maine 2040, and in Maine 2040, I give you 12 ideas on how to solve this on page 60, I think. So more to come if you want to learn more about it.
Thank you, Owen. Then Mitchell, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Yeah. Just to add on to what Owen said, and I agree with everything he said, this is the number one state bottom line. We can't act like this is our kids. So you've got to take the Office of Child Protective Services out of DHHS. It's a $4.3 billion department. It's too big. You put it under public safety. You put the deputy commissioner in as someone with experience in child homicide and child abuse. It's terrible to say that, but you need that. And much more support for caseworkers, guardian ad litems, kinship program, foster parents, and give it a smaller oversight window, and then that way you can support the caseworkers better.
Thank you, Dan.
There we go. It's another example of bloat causing incompetence. The scope of work of the Family Services Agency has gotten so large. Do you know that every nursery school in Maine has to give these hand sign-in sheets and sign-out sheets to all all the teachers and all the kids, and then the inspector has got to do a caseload. Every child in Maine who complains that mommy hit me because I wanted to wear my uniform, my unicorn suit, gets a ticket to be investigated, and they're 96% behind. We must narrow the scope of what we do and improve the excellence. And this is a great example of that. We got to fix the lights, guys.
Thank you, John. Well, they say I could open the window and Maine could hear me. I guess we're about to find out. Julie, could you give David Jones a question, please? David, once you've read the question, you have 90 seconds to respond to it.
Will my mic work when I go? That's one mic. That's. Hello. I'll try and do it out.
Yell at David. Yell it.
All right, under Democratic control, Maine's electricity rate increases were the highest in the country last year at 36.8%. Testing. All right, I'll start. You hold this one. Under Democrat control, Maine's electricity rates increases were the highest in the country last year at 36.3%. That's exactly double Connecticut's rate increase, which was the second highest. Why are Maine's electricity rates increasing so much faster than elsewhere in the country? And if elected governor, when elected, what specifically will you do to fix this massive problem? Thank you. Well, okay, look, we all know our electric bills have gone insane. It's just they double. You know, I've seen people that they're living on fixed incomes and they're trying to pay an electric bill, and they're just not able to keep up with that and property taxes and everything else. We need to have affordable electricity. So what that means is we've got to have small modular nuclear devices, and we have to bring in a second gas pipeline into the state of Maine, so we have two alternatives for fuel. And that way, no matter what goes on, we're not going to run out of energy. Energy is the most important thing in our lives. No matter what we do, no matter where we go, turning on these lights are on us right now, the microphones work when they work. You know, the bottom line is we need power. And if we want businesses to come here, we've got to attract them. Why don't businesses come here? Because they can't afford the damn electric bills. I'm sorry, it's wrong and it's not the way it's supposed to be. The idea that we were 2 times the amount of Connecticut, which was the highest, and they were at 18%. And you look at the rest of the place where all over the country didn't have increases like this. We have an ideal law that's running it. We have the head of the former Democrat Republican party running the PUC. We have to get people that are qualified, that understand energy. And I promise you, we will have people that know what they're doing. They're going to be hired. They're going to know what it is to bring good energy into the state of Maine, and they're going to do the job that each and every one of us absolutely need to have happen. No more net energy bill. I promise.
Thank you, David. Robert Wessels, you have 30 seconds to respond.
So I agree with a lot of what David said. I agree with small modular reactors. We absolutely have to go that direction. I also agree with getting billing. But the reality is that, again, I went to and visited a small business, and they had an energy bill of $6,000 a month. It has since gone up to $15,000 a month. We are absolutely chasing businesses out of the state. But the reality is that we are currently Augusta is putting policy over people, and they do this all the time.
Thank you, Robert. Alder Carter, you have 30 seconds to respond.
You want to see someone angry, you try explaining to the cook at the downtown deli in Patton, Maine, that of the $2.5 billion electricity market, $250 million of that is for solar developers, 10% of it, and another $400 million of that is hidden fees that no one knows about. We need to remove the hidden fees, bring them into the budget, and bring them as low as possible, so that way just shine a light on them, and we lower electricity for all neighbors.
Thank you, Eric. So I just want to remind the candidates that once the initial question is read, if you want to respond, I'm going to try to do it on a first come, first served basis. So put your hand up if you want to respond. All right, Julie. All right, we'll do the next one, Jen. Let's go. Julie, let's go to Robert Wesselson. Robert, you have 90 seconds once you've read the question.
Under Democrat rule, our property taxes seem to be soaring every single year. Really? Huh. Why do you think this is happening? And if elected governor, what will you do to address soaring property taxes? Yes, absolutely. This is happening. I've been campaigning for 2.5 years, and the reality is this is one of the issues that I constantly hear about, especially for people with fixed income. Number one, when I'm governor, I'm going to cut $2 billion from our budget in the first year. What we're going to do with that $2 billion, we're going to instantly take that and put it towards increasing the homestead exemption from $25,000 to $300,000 for Mainers, primary residents. The reality is that, number one, I hate property tax. I believe property tax is basically making it so you are renting from the government because they can kick you out of your home that you own because you didn't pay that. So my long-term goal is to get rid of property tax altogether. You can't do that in year one. We have to work in there. We do have to fund our towns and our schools. So we have to figure out that solution. But year one, we can increase homestead exemption. We can make it so if you are living in a $300,000 home and you're on a fixed income, then that's on us, and we will take care of that because we can do that when we've done the $2 billion budget cut. So ultimately, property taxes, I don't like the idea at all. We need to get out of property taxes. I will stand by that. And so the reality is if we get rid of it, we don't care why it went up. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Jim Libby, you raise your hand so quickly, we'll give you 30 seconds.
Thank you. I think on top of what was just said, I wouldn't go that far with, at first it was 400,000, now it's 300,000. No, I've doubled the exemption, the homestead exemption, increased revenue sharing for sure. But the real problem is you've been ripped off because the government, through the Federal Reserve System, printed money, and that's why the houses are at the level they're at now. They printed money, $7 trillion, and now it's $19 trillion, and that steals from your retirement, not just from everything else that you're doing. So people can't afford to pay for their property taxes because of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Eventually, you got 30 seconds.
It's a crisis right now, so you have to use a stick. It's the only way to get property taxes down. So what you do is you conditionalize the 55% revenue share that the schools get, saying you cannot raise your property taxes because of school budgets anymore. You conditionalize the 5% sales tax revenue share that municipalities get. So municipalities can't get that money anymore unless they're going to lower your taxes. And then you look at the state assessment level, which is 70% of your property value. But we have some towns now assessing people at 100% of their value, so you bring that down more like 50%.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan. Julie, would you please get a question from Jonathan Bush? Jonathan, once you read the question, you'll have 90 seconds to answer.
It's going to take me 90 seconds to read it. Many Mainers feel that Maine's election system is not secure due to a lack of voter ID requirements and due to Democrats' desire for non-citizens to vote. How secure or insecure do you believe Maine elections currently are, and if elected governor, what specifically will you do to strengthen elections? This party needs to pay attention to polls and be specific and professional with what we propose. We had to get through Shannon Bellows, and she really stuck it to us with the wording of that bill. But we also threw a bunch of stuff in there that made us go from 70% of Mainers wanting it to 30% of Mainers wanting it, and just us. That was a mistake. We need, and we'll have other questions tonight to talk about building this party, building dominance in this state to where we are regularly winning. But that example of elected integrity, where we overbuilt that law, overbuilt the wording, the ambition of that law, and then lost, And by the way, created a losing streak down the ballot with the red flag law is an example of what we need to stop doing. We don't need to do what feels good to us. We need to do what wins for us.
Thank you, John. 10 minutes for you, 30 seconds to respond.
I agree with everything Jonathan said. You got to purge the voter rolls, which hasn't been done really ever in the state. You got to get illegal migrants off the voter rolls. You have to stop auto-registering people at the DMV for voting. You've got to share the data we have with the Department of Justice so they can also support us in cleaning up our voter rolls once and for all.
Thank you, Ben. David Jones, you have 30 seconds.
Right, perfect. This is something that we've all worked on. Everybody in this room, I'm pretty sure, voted for voter ID. Didn't you? So look, vote at all. We need a photo ID, and we have to make sure we have paper ballots. Bottom line, we have to make sure our elections are secure, and the only way we're going to do it is if we pass voter ID.
Thank you, David. Julie, would you please sit down? Ben, once you read the question, you'll have 90 seconds to answer it.
Small print. So what problems do sanctuary in Maine create for communities, and if elected governor, what specifically will you do to enhance immigration enforcement in Maine? Mike's okay, we're good? Okay. So there's a couple things. First, you gotta get rid of LD 1971, which made Maine a sanctuary state. That's just gotta go. Bottom line. Portland, example, takes 86% of general assistance dollars. You can't do it. You want to have terrible policies you're going to pay for yourself, then your own people are going to be sick of you, as the rest of the state is. You are going to cooperate with federal authorities. You have to do that. You have to end the incentives that we have for people to be here. Right? We give away everything. I'm going to bring this up later, but the average welfare recipient in the state of Maine makes $40,000 a year in benefits. You're paying for that. So you got to stop that and get rid of that. And then obviously you got to change out everyone on the Supreme Court, which is going to come up during the next governor's term. So you can make a lot of changes that way. You can change judges all the way down the system. But once you clean up those things, these problems are going to start to go away.
Thank you, Ben. Everybody's had 2 chances. Before we go to anybody else, I want to ask Garrett Mason or Jim Libby if either one of you want to respond.
Sure. Yeah.
You got 30 seconds.
Yeah, so I think Ben is absolutely right. You need to actually, if you can't repeal it right away, if you don't have the votes, you need to completely ignore the sanctuary state law because it's not constitutional, and quite frankly needs to be challenged in federal court because it hasn't. So you have to completely ignore that. What you get if you don't do that is what happened at Minnesota and in some instances here in Lewiston. You don't have local law enforcement cooperating with federal law enforcement.
Jim, do you want to respond?
Sure. I'll just add that I was down in Atlanta, Georgia one time, and I was in an Uber. And the Uber driver, of course, they try to make a lot of conversation with you. And I said, that was from Maine. And he goes, oh, Maine. Yes, my cousin who just came to this country just went up to me. You treat people really good in Maine. And we're going to end that crap.
That is a good way to end section 1. All right, we have a second round of questions where the guys are going to pull out the jar. Julie, let's start with Garrett again. Garrett, once you read it, you have 90 seconds to answer it.
All right. Maine's economy under Democrat control now ranks 43rd in the nation. If elected governor, how will you turn this around as quickly as possible? And what specifically will be your first action step to do so? You know, the next governor has a lot of opportunity, and the first thing that you have to do is you actually have to start working to be governor in September before you're actually even elected. And the reason for that is because that's when commissioners start drafting budgets. The Mills Administration commissioners are going to start drafting their budgets in September. And what they're going to do is they're going to pass the next governor the new budget, which will be well over $13 billion. And by the time you get it, if you start working on it in November, you are far behind and you've already lost. The biggest thing that we can do to get Maine's economy moving again is present a budget that we can be proud of and that Mainers can afford. And I can tell you this. If I'm lucky enough to be the nominee and lucky enough to be elected governor, there will be no Mills Administration budget. There will be no $13 billion budget here. When I was Senate Majority Leader, I worked and negotiated budgets. I know how to build out a budget. We will work on that all the while we're running for governor. It's the biggest thing that you can do to help the economy. Thank you. The other thing that you have to do is you have to address energy. That means groceries. All of the things that you talk about at your kitchen table every single night, you have to address those things. We have a plan to do it, and I wish I had more time to talk about it.
Thank you, Garrett. Overtime is very simple. We need to both fix the fundamentals we've got on our strengths. To fix the fundamentals, 10% income tax cut immediately, phase it out over 8 years. Regulation, for every one rule we propose, my administration, we're going to remove 2. On the betting on our strengths, we've been building boats in this state since the British liked our pine trees. We can build 5,000, 10,000 jobs worth of boats in the maritime industry. Again, on the forest products industry, we do those things, we can get the economy back on track. Thank you all.
Small businesses are the backbone of our economy. We're chasing them out of our state right now, whether that's energy, whether that is property taxes like we talked about earlier. We are chasing small businesses out of the state. We have to make it easier for small business to succeed. If you have an idea, you should be able to go to our state website. You should be able to click some links, find everything you need to do, get it submitted within a week, and be up and running with your small business. We also have to, again, we have to become friendly to small businesses and stop chasing them. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Jim, once you read the question, you'll have 90 seconds to answer.
A recent study of Maine's economy predicted 0 job growth in 27, 28, and 29. What is your analysis of the case under Democrat control? And if you're elected governor, specifically, what would you do in job growth and that Maine desperately needs? All right. Hey, that's an easy one. You know, economic development incentives is something I've been involved in my entire career. So, for example, I mentioned the Better program earlier, but I wrote a TIF for Poland Spring, and we built a Poland Spring plant over in Hollis and created 500 jobs over there. So economic development is important, but the biggest problem that I'm hearing from a lot of businesses, and we just came from the Fisherman's Forum, is insurance. You know, insurance in the state of Maine is something I've worked on. Workers' comp insurance, we created MEMIC, Maine Employers Mutual, and I was able to work with the governor's office as a member of the labor committee when I was a state legislator, and we set up a system where we improved safety by sending safety teams in. We got the premiums down every year for 5 straight years, and then the insurers that left the state came back. Well, now we need insurance reform again. And the problem is again, safety's a problem. So how can we improve that? And I suggested this at the Fisherman's Forum. We've got a huge $1 billion rainy day fund, and we're not using that to help to guarantee reinsurance and get the rates down. I don't know if you know what reinsurance is, but basically the insurers insure out to take care of the real problems that are very expensive, like a natural disaster. We could use that rainy day fund as a backstop and get rates down, yet nobody in Augusta talks about that. That's a real thing that can happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
So usually you have 30 seconds to respond.
Didn't think I made the gun on that one. All right, so from the standpoint of business support, you've got to support our legacy industries. First of all, lobstering, fishing, and agriculture. It's embarrassing what we don't do for them. You've got to get expedited permitting in place with the DEP. If you don't get your permit in 60 days, it's approved. You got to get rid of these regulations. 135,925 regulations. Corporate tax needs to go down. The governor has to be out in front of this state every day promoting why you should be doing business.
Thank you, David Jones. You have 30 seconds to respond.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is equipment tax rebate. Angus King, that was his brainchild, and he was so afraid of it. But the bottom line is you need an elected governor who's going to get things done. We need to eliminate these regulations that are pushing businesses into a corner and forcing them not to come back or not to stay in Maine and not to come to our state. We have to have a business-friendly environment. We have to have affordable energy. And we have to make sure we get a governor that's going to really do what he says and try to get done.
Thank you, David. Can you please put the question to Norm McCarthy? You have 90 seconds once you read the question.
Not a day goes by that we don't hear about rampant fraud in Maine under Democrat control. In your analysis, why is this fraud happening? And specifically, what are you going to do to reduce it, if not stop it altogether? Well, first of all, let me tell you a story. I was collecting signatures to get on the ballot, and this old farmer came in to see me. He had calloused hands, and he was so mad. He's like, look, Owen, why are you taking my hard-earned taxpayer dollars and then just giving them away for no services delivered? And he's kind of yelling at me about this. And I said, sir, I would love to fix that. Just sign to get me on the ballot and we can do that. And so for me, one is we need to audit everything. And the plan, we talk about the Maine performance review, which goes straight at the heart of this. Two is where we find criminal activity, we need to prosecute said criminal activity. That farmer is wondering why people aren't doing that already. And that's one of the reasons he's the most fired up. And three, we need to make sure that we put controls in place so it never happens again. And we need to do it fast, because when you have the power and when you have the control, you never know when you're going to get it back. And so you need to go after it, you need to go do it.
Thank you, Owen.
One of the things that I'm not hearing enough is shrink Augusta. The reason we have this fraud is because we doubled the size of the biennial budget in one administration. Every dollar of fraud that we found, I promise you, there is 10 or 20 of waste of totally legal absurdity. We need to shrink, not cut the mushrooms growing out of our walls, but dry out the walls.
All right, fraud prevention is standard operating procedure in the corporate world. So you just create exception reports. So things that are too high that shouldn't be paid or don't have the proper documentation don't get paid. You create multi-level alerts so everyone up to the governor's office, Commissioner Daffs, sees this, and you don't pay anything until you approve it. You utilize the fraud department. You have 24 people in there who aren't being utilized appropriately. You prosecute fraud. You get rid of the situation where people can appeal these prosecutions for 3 years.
Thank you, Ben. Julie, would you give a question to David Jones, please?
Under Democrat control, Maine's public education has fallen from among the best in the nation to number 41 overall in K through 12 education. What is your analysis of why our educational system has become so lousy? And when elected governor, what is your plan to fix it? This is a question I'm really glad I got. So look, let's face it, DEI, SEL, CRT, done. Vendor making, done. Commissioner of Education, we need someone with a set that's going to really do the job. I'm tired of all the lip service on our kids learning things that we don't want them learning. I have a 5-year-old, she's in school, her teacher, she came home one day, she says, hey, Papa, you know, they're reading a book about a little boy wearing girls' dresses, a boy in a tangerine dress. You want your kids learning that? I don't. Right? She looked at me and she said, but Papa, don't do anything. I said, why not? They won't like me. So 5 years old, she's learning about alternative lifestyles, and she's learning about fear of retribution. Is that what our schools are supposed to be teaching us? I promise you, I give you my word, my firm oath, that when I become governor of the state of Maine, I will have a commissioner of education who's going to go in there and just make this place the way that we want it to be. We have to stop with the stupidity. We have to stop with not teaching the basics. Of the kids come out of school, we need vocational training. Our kids are now learning trades. I am here today because I learned a trade in high school. I didn't go to college. I went to the Italian university. It's called What's the Matter You? I promise you, let's get more people out there that have the talent, that don't want to go to college, and really don't care about going to college, but they can be lobstermen, they can be carpenters, plumbers, electricians, and so on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Jim Libby, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Great, well, I did, recently I went to a middle school, and so I was going into a room and being shown around, and guess what? There was a child standing on a desk, and another one later I saw swinging on a door. And so, you know, part of the problem is administration. Administrators have not given the kind of classroom setting that kids need to learn. So I would say that's a big one, and I'm out of time, and I'd like to talk a lot more about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Jonathan, we're going to you next, but Ben, would you kindly loan Jonathan your mic? Our engineer says Jonathan's mic is It is your birthday. Jonathan, you got 30 seconds to respond.
On the education one? Oh, I got in. I won. Listen, this is a state that was #1 in the country, and we are number 46. If you look across all the states, we are 46. 76% of Maine kids can't read in 4th grade level. There needs to be a hard, cold accountability. In 3rd grade, we will test. At the end of 3rd grade, we will warn. If you can't get 85% of your kids reading at a 4th grade level, you lose that money. That money goes from the school to the parents.
Thank you, Jonathan. Julie, would you give a question to Robert Wesley? Robert, you'll have 90 seconds once you read the question.
Some Mainers think that only violent illegal aliens in Maine should be deported, whereas others think that every illegal alien in Maine should be deported because they broke the law by sneaking into the country and are a financial drain on our communities. Which way do you lean? And if elected governor, what specifically would you do to address the problem caused by illegal immigration? Thank you for the question, and ultimately we need to start with the problems of illegal immigration, because the reality is illegal immigration is impacting everything for Maine citizens. It's impacting our housing prices, our housing availability, it's impacting our taxes, it's impacting our healthcare, and so we have to address it. And to answer the question, I lean towards they're here illegally. They are welcome to come. My brother-in-law is a legal immigrant, and I'm all for that. But they legally, they need to follow our rules and our systems. I am all about law and order, and we need to be that way. And so, absolutely, we have to. I will work with the federal administration, and number one, as we talked about, we need to get rid of Maine being a sanctuary state immediately. And then I will work with the federal administration. I will address that. We need to control our borders. We need to make sure that people are only here legally. So, thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Garrett Mason. You're the only one that has not responded in this round. So let me give you a shot. Go 30 seconds.
You know, at the end, you know? Yeah, so I definitely lean towards you have to do the phase-in approach that President Trump is doing right now. You have to get rid of the criminal and illegal aliens, and then you have to go after everybody else who's here illegally. It's not compassion to let everybody in, drain resources, and take away from the people who are here legally and who are citizens. We absolutely need to follow the example that President Trump has set. The best way that we can do that is by ignoring the sanctuary city law and have local and state law enforcement work with ICE to deport them.
Thank you, David Jones. 30 seconds.
For the past several months, I've been spending my evenings in Lewiston fighting against the Somali problem we have. This is a real problem. Right? The idea that these people are coming here, they do not want to assimilate. Charlie Kirk said to me face to face, he said, immigration without assimilation is nothing more than an invasion. All they want is our money. They don't want to be American. They don't want to be American. We have to stop it. They want to assimilate, they want to become part of our culture. God bless them. If not, hey, I'm sorry. I'll see you later, alligator. You need to go.
Julie, your question is not in question.
All right. Maine's new abortion law is the most extreme in the entire world, allowing late-term abortion through 9 months of pregnancy, long after the baby would be viable outside of the womb. If elected governor, what, if anything, would you do to address this late-term abortion law? This was another example, this party snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. We had no business allowing that to happen. We had a 24-week, which is where viability begins, which is tough for some people who believe in life, but the fact that we let that slip to a Democrat backlash because we had not built up a party that can stand up to it is a tragedy. We must build our party in a non-threatening way to keep insanity. This is another example of something. If you said this was true in 2014 at a bar, you'd be cut off. 70% of Americans of all political stripe do not support such a thing as end of term abortion. And yet we let it happen. We need to double down and become a likable, believable party so that this kind of craziness is refiled as crazy.
I know it's political time. David, do you want to take it?
Yeah, absolutely.
David Jones?
Yeah, I've been asked about this a lot. You know, if I could just, when I become governor, get back to where it was when Janet Mills became governor of the state of Maine, that will be a major accomplishment. No late-term abortion. It's as simple as that. Now, this is something people don't like to talk about, but we have to get into the hearts and minds of people, and we have to make them understand the value of life. So I'm telling you, I will have good direction when it comes. I've talked to many a pastor about this, and they've given me some great ideas, and I promise you, we will get back to where we were before she got in the office.
Does anyone else want to take a shot at it? Gary? Gary, you got 30 seconds.
So obviously that is a horrific and barbaric law, and I don't think most Mainers are even close to that. But I think what we can do as a party is I think we need to be able to make the case that life is worth it, that the choice is life. Make life affordable. Give assistance to mothers when they're really questioning what they do. Stop the crazies from protesting life clinics. There's so many things that we can do to make life the obvious choice instead of this barbaric type of procedure.
Then, once you read the question, you'll have 90 seconds to answer it.
All right, under Democratic rule, Maine's infrastructure, its roads, electrical grid, bridges now ranks 50 out of 50, dead last in the country. What is your analysis of this? Why this is the case, and if elected governor, what specifically will you do to fix it? Well, yeah, our infrastructure is bad in this state, there's no question about that. Obviously, you have to direct the right amount of funds for it. We've got a $12 billion budget now. It took 200 years to get to $7 billion, and only 7 more years to get to $12 billion. So once we reappropriate the money that shouldn't be spent on things we shouldn't be spending it on, like fraud, like excessive welfare program, you can redirect to the infrastructure we need to have that we have in the state. We've got a lot, so let me tell you a few. So bridges, we've got 2,521 bridges that have ranked a D+, and half of our bridges are over 50 years old. We can spend some of that money on that. We need $3.1 billion in wastewater upgrades, which, by the way, once you start doing that, you can build housing more effectively. Okay, our drinking water is a C-. We have 672 dams that have only been 54% assessed. So overall, the situation in Maine from an infrastructure standpoint is terrible. All you have to do is prioritize what is important to the state. When you have strong infrastructure, that is one of the linchpins to bring business here, along with lower electricity costs. I'm not trying to hire folks against welfare, and I'm talking about that a lot, but I was talking to a gentleman the other day at a convenience store. He had to pay $52,000 if he wanted to hire somebody to get off their benefits to come work in a convenience store. Yeah. You can't do that. Obviously, you can hire them, but you can't do it. So at the end of the day, get these pro-business policies in place. Infrastructure is a big part of that, and we can start turning the corner.
Thank you, Ben. We're at the end of the U.S., but we're in the middle of the Arctic trade route with deep water ports, and we need to build the infrastructure to take advantage of it. We also need to have international flights that come out of Portland Jetport. There's demand from airlines that want to come in. We just need to build customs. And then 3, can we fix the cell service? I've driven across the state. A lot in the last couple of weeks, and I've dropped like 10 phone calls, and we're going to fix it.
Thank you, Roy. Robert Wessels or Jim Libby, you haven't answered a second time. Either one of you want to take 30 seconds?
I will. Cut the line. One of the things I haven't heard today is that President Trump has it right. So President Trump wants to build energy generation right next to the businesses. And he's right. And we have biomass plants right here in the state now. And we, like the one at Sappy, at the paper company, but we can have them at smaller sawmills. But any energy generation that a business is willing to invest in is a good investment.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, we're going to move on to round 2. Round 2 should be fun. Julie's going to go with the jar. We're going to start with Ben Midgley. He's going to pick the name out of a jar, and he'll have 30 seconds to ask one of his compatriots questions.
It's getting smaller and smaller. This is part of the trick.
And then whoever's name is chosen will have 60 seconds to respond, and then Ben can respond with 30, and then 30, and then we move. So Ben, whose name did you choose?
We got Jim Libby.
Yes. You got 30 seconds to ask him a question.
Jim, thought about these questions for a long time. Ask me if I'm seasoned. What is your favorite color and why? Color. Color. Just kidding. So the question is, red. Red. As a longtime educator in Maine, what changes would you make to the Department of Education? Well, I think it starts with the commissioner. We got a conservative commissioner that really understands all parts of education. So I mentioned teacher training earlier, but homeschooling. Homeschooling has to be a priority. Yeah. Christian schooling. So I introduced the Arizona School Choice Plan in a bill last term. So I like to let people know that if you want a record, check my record, and you'll know exactly how I feel about some of these issues, and it'll be more than a minute 30 to answer it.
Then you have 30 seconds to respond to Jim.
Yeah, I think one thing I just want to say in a lot of these questions, I mean, hopefully you're just going to get all the right answers. These are really qualified guys that have a lot of great things to say, right? So hopefully when we have more answers, it's just going to broaden. Thank you. Can I just say that still answered? Yeah. All right, so a couple things to add on to that, like things I would focus on as well are obviously change the Commissioner of Education. The State Board of Education is a problem. A lot of states don't even have it. You can either dissolve it or modify it completely. works with curriculum, teachers credentialing. You can totally change that so it works better for us. You got something called the Maine School Management Association that oversees the Maine Superintendents Association, the Maine School Board Association, and they work with Drummond and Wilson, and they just give bad advice to our schools. So you got to conditionalize that money so you cannot use it for that and bring in a third-party resource that will do the right job.
Thank you, Ben. Jimmy, 30 seconds.
I guess one thing I would add to that is you have to change the Maine Human Rights Act, because the Maine Human Rights Act is in conflict with Title IX, and that's where the problem begins, right? Are we gonna really let children show up at school, and what are they gonna do, cross-dress next? I'm not, well, I guess maybe they're already doing it. But that is exactly the way the law reads. You get to choose your gender identity. I can't think of anything in my history. I mean, I got 65 years old. I can't think of anything worse than that law. Can you?
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Ben. Julie, would you please let Jonathan Bush choose the name? Jonathan, once you've chosen the name, if you tell us who it is, and you have 30 seconds to ask the question.
It is the Great McCarthy. You ready? It's going to be brutal. Gloves are coming off.
Which gloves? They don't fit, the gloves don't fit.
Good, very good. I have said in my campaign that we need a disruptor, an outsider who is a competent CEO, not a lobbyist or insider from either Augusta or Washington. What is your view on insider versus outsider, CEO versus lawyer, lobbyist, sort of professional in the system? And why?
Oh, you have 60 seconds to respond.
I'll answer this with, has anyone liked how government has operated the last 30 years? No. The only time we might have liked when Paul LePage was governor, who was an outsider and so my answer is, if we want to build this state, if we want to build opportunity, if we want to attack affordability, we need an outsider that is a CEO executive position, because this is an executive level role, and we need to build a team that can help us see around corners within that structure. And if we do that, we can make Maine a great place to build a company, build a business, and raise your kids and stay here. How do you like that?
I'd like to use my 30 seconds to tell you all how good Owen's answer was. I think we need an outsider with no exposure to the Augusta virus. This is very contagious. You need to stay more than 6 feet away from somebody with the Augusta virus. Much more. And DC is not much better than Augusta. There's a virus down there, you breathe deep. And I think this is a CEO job. We have a lot of great CEOs to choose from. This is a 20,000 person operation running a $12 billion budget, and that is the way we should think of it. It is also the way we will outclass our competition in the general, where there are no CEOs anywhere running for government.
I agree, so I just want to say that the 6 feet away thing reminds me of a story when my dad called me during COVID. He was up in Pat, and he's like, "Oh, and why do people want me to get closer together? I'm usually further than 6 feet apart from everyone." That was ridiculous.
Thank you, Owen. Julie, would you please give Robert Wessels the opportunity to pull the name? Robert, once you get that, would you announce the name, and you have 30 seconds to ask the question.
Wessels. This is going to be a softball question. All right, Jonathan Bush. You are right on the cruise of my paper. So, all right. My 17-year-old daughter is a soccer player. I'm a football player. So I have a serious concern. I've got like 6 microphones coming my way here. My 17-year-old daughter is a soccer player. I'm a girl dad. So I have serious concerns about biological boys and girls' sports and spaces. Several people brought it up as a concern about our October 18th debate in Augusta, mentioning that they didn't think that you raised your hand when you were asked for your support for the opportunity, and you didn't have the opportunity for explanation. So, one, will you follow Trump's administration current guidance on protecting girls' sports and spaces? Because the video didn't show whether you raised your hand or not. And can you clearly explain your stance?
Thank you, Rob.
Somebody's getting fired from the AV club. You lose the light keys from the school principal. Remember the light keys? You can use them.
Doctor, you have 60 seconds.
60 seconds. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to clear the air. One of my big, great campaign volunteers, Marty Malloy in Rockland, Maine, said, I got this guy who wants to support you. He thinks you didn't stand up or raise your hand, whatever. I thought I did. I've got 4 daughters. The idea to me that we're still talking about it is another example of something that if you said it out loud in a bar in 2014, the bartender would cut you off. I don't understand. It's sort of like, should giant big boys play in girls' sports? No, and what's for dinner? Like, why are we still talking? I tell my kids, I love motorcycle racing, and I love bicycle racing. I'm not sure I like seeing motorcycles in bicycle races. That just doesn't make any sense to me. So I am emphatically against the idea of motorcycles and bicycle races or boys and girls sports. And I'm going to clear the air.
You have 30 seconds for response.
I am glad to hear that. Thank you. And again, just like you were saying, I think you electric motorcycle, bicycle. I might just steal that. I'll give you credit though. Yeah. So the reality is, there's a lot of safety issues, right? There's clearly biological reasons and all kinds of development reasons. And so I agree with you. It's absolutely like, common sense. Oh, where have I heard that before? Thank you.
Doctor, you have 30 seconds to respond. Thank you, Robert.
We're like out agreeing with each other for another 30 seconds. Yes, I agree with your agreement of my agreement. And so we all agree. I do think there's a list of these sort of what's for dinner, like how are we still talking about it, you know? There's a law that if you arrest someone for breaking and entering and they identify as homeless, you can't take them to jail. If they're sick, you can't put them in jail. You have to take them to the hospital. There's no way you can use a nurse, really? The list of absurd walls, the wall of shame in Maine, of absurd laws that go way beyond the boys and the girls sports is absurd, and we will reverse it easily once we get there.
Thank you, gentlemen. Julie, can you give David Jones a chance to take the name? David, once you have the name, would you read it out loud? And you have 30 seconds to ask the person the question.
David Jones. Eventually. All right. Here we go. So.
Oh, notes? Homework.
Make sure I get it right. All right, then you go like this. A candidate on this stage recently was interviewed and said that the state is not running like a business. Is like not like running a business, and being governor is not like being a CEO. I think people like myself, Paul LePage, Donald Trump, would absolutely disagree with this. Now I don't know who I'm talking about, but so I want to ask you, Ben, what's your take on the idea that a CEO, a business owner, should not be governor of the state of Maine, is incapable of being the governor of the state of Maine?
Ben, you have 1 minute to respond.
All right, I think we have a pretty good example on this one, right? First of all, there's absolutely no truth to that. I mean, the President of the United States is a CEO. Bottom line, had no political experience. The most transformational president we've ever had in our history, bottom line. CEOs just have different skills, different experiences, right? When you run a large organization, you understand strategic vision, building a winning team, You want to put the people in the right places that have the answers that you may not know. Being a CEO or being a governor doesn't mean you have to have all the right answers. It means you need to put the team together that does. That's one of the talents. You need to be in that role to look around corners, to have strong financial management, to have good character, good values, and make decisions that are in the best interest of the majority of people in the state of Maine as best you possibly can.
Well, I think Ben and I will agree with this. I believe that being a politician, a lawyer, or a lobbyist totally disqualifies anybody from being the next governor of the state of Maine. I mean that with all my heart. For 20 years that I've been doing radio here with Ray, we've had them all on, we hear everything they say, we hear vague promises and commitments, and nothing gets done. A CEO, a self-made guy, is the guy that can make things happen, and we need that for sure in 2026.
Thank you, David. Ben, you have 30 seconds to follow up. Ben, you have 30 seconds to follow up.
I agree with everything David said.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Julie, would you give Owen a name? Owen, please read the name, and you have 30 seconds to ask a question.
Robert Gustis. I'll share mics. Will you share mics? We're in the middle of a lot of change right now with what's going on in the fourth industrial revolution and AI. It's something that scares a lot of us, but it's also something that's changing how we operate every single day and a lot of what we do. How do you think about preparing the state of Maine for that?
Thank you for the question. And yes, I agree with both aspects of that. My campaign manager, so the beauty of having such a young campaign, I bring the age up. They want to kick me out because I bring it up so much, but they have been using AI. But I was hesitant to go along with it a couple of years ago. But the reality is, the state of Maine, we will be left behind. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. It will happen. The question is will we move along with it? There are a ton of economic and business-related benefits, government-related benefits to embracing this change and to going with it. I do agree we have to do it carefully. We have to do it smart. We have to be intentional about how we're doing it, but we have to do it.
Thank you, Robert. Only 30 seconds.
So my view is we didn't do so well in the third industrial revolution in Maine, and so we need to jump on board with this one. I know it is scary, but to do that, we need to make sure we start training people in this. The 1.4 million of people in Maine will be more resilient if they're trained on how to use the tools. We need to create a displaced workers fund like we did back in the past during the third industrial revolution, and we need to make sure that we tell our small businesses smart ways to utilize the technology, because we actually have an opportunity to participate in this new economy starting today.
Thank you, Owen. Robert, 30 seconds.
I completely agree with everything you said, but again, the reality is there's an economic benefit, right? There's so many conversations as I've been campaigning the last 2.5 years. 80% of the conversations are about what I call personal economics and how much families are hurting. And the reality is that there is economic benefit to this.
Thank you, Rob. Julie, would you please give Jim the opportunity to choose the name? Jim, once you've gotten the name, would you read it? And then you have 30 seconds to ask a question.
Check. Those are stats.
David Jones.
David Jones.
I've been thinking about this for a long time, David. I've known or had at least had a good conversation with every single governor since Kevin Curtis. And I'd like to know, since you're from away, I'd like to know, who do you think is your favorite governor, and give me a policy-based reason why that is so.
David, you have 60 seconds to answer.
I think everybody in this room is probably thinking what I'm thinking. But I'll say this, I'm not from away. I've been here for 30 years full-time, 40 years part-time. My life is invested in the state. I own Maine's oldest contiguous running company, FO Railing, which was founded in 1819. Let me answer my question, right? 1819, 1 year before Maine became a state. So from away, come on, give me a break. All right, so now, there's only one governor in my life here in Maine in the past 30, 40 years, and that was Paul LePage. People look at me and they talk to me, they come up to me after I go to these events, and they say, you are Paul LePage on steroids but with some polished edges. So I look at that as an compliment. We had a guy who absolutely did his job, and that's what I will do, and I promise you, I will give it my all to make Maine great again.
Jim, you have 30 seconds to answer.
Okay, well, I was looking for a policy-based reason, and so my favorite governor is actually Jim Longley Sr., believe it or not. And I one time gave a speech down at UNE, and I told the folks down there, did you know that Jim Longley Sr. vetoed a statewide medical school that the legislature wanted to spend millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars on? And so my question for you is, what policy did Paul LePage carry out that you really liked?
David, you have 30 seconds.
Paid our hospitals for one, and Jim Longley's son, Steve, came up to me, and he said to me one day, you know, I've been watching you, you remind me so much of my dad. Right? And so that meant a lot to me when you came up to me and said, you volunteered, I wasn't looking for it. But you know, we paid our hospitals, right? We did whatever we could to get welfare under control. He went over to Janet Mills and asked her to prosecute 180 plus cases. She refused to prosecute, and the legislature wouldn't give him the money to do the job. So I want to make sure that what we do is done right, and I promise you, as governor, I will.
Thank you, David. So we did an interesting moment here. Jared, I don't believe you've been asked a question.
So I'm gonna get myself.
Yeah, nor have you been able to ask one. So I think the easiest way is to let you choose whoever you'd like to ask a question about. And you have 30 seconds to do it.
Okay, Ben mentioned. From 2010 to 2018, I served in the state legislature. And I was proud to be part of passing the one and only statewide income tax reduction that is still on the books today. In fact, we removed 70,000 people from the tax rolls entirely. My question for you is, I think every person on the stage here has said that they're going to eliminate the income tax in their first term. Some have even said immediately. So my question for you, Ben, is how are you going to get done what Paul LePage couldn't get done in 8 years?
Ben, you have 60 seconds to answer.
Can you hear me? Okay, well, when Paul LePage was in office, he did have tax cuts in 2011 and 2015. And when you lower taxes in the state revenue goes up. That's the importance of doing it. And the Democrats haven't figured out that when you have more money in your pocket and businesses have more money in their pocket, people spend more, the state gets more money. The focus I would take in terms of structurally reducing taxes is, as you mentioned earlier, Garrett, when you come into the governor's office, you get 2 months to start your budget in November, you got to have it ready to go. So you've got to reduce state spending. Obviously, Maine Care is going to be the biggest issue to find that. We've got 400,000 people on Maine Care. You just got to get these folks a bridge off so they can make more money as they keep their benefits until they don't need it anymore. So we're not going to cut everybody's benefits and then lose the next election as Republicans. You're going to get rid of the expensive benefits for illegal migrants, save money there, fix the broken procurement system where we have no bid contracts for $2.1 billion of your money, and you're going to go back to zero-based budgeting in the states, so you can save hundreds of millions of dollars there, and then you pay for your tax cuts that way.
Jared, we have 30 seconds to
And my specific question was, how are you going to cut the income tax to zero when it could not be done in 8 years?
I never made that claim, just to be clear. Yeah, and I think that would be very hard, Garrett. I agree with you on that one.
So, whoever's first, whoever's first gets to ask Garrett Mason a question. Ben, whoever's first. David Jones, you have 30 seconds to ask Garrett Mason a question.
And I like Garrett, by the way.
I'm very
However, we have some big differences here. Currently, your campaign is financed by two out-of-state billionaires, right? There's a PAC that's spending hundreds of thousands of dollars of their money to get you elected. Now, you know, people talk about dark money. I think that's dark money. Now, all of us candidates up here, except for Jim, are running traditional, and we're raising our own money. You step into the race, right? You step into the race, and you've got all this dark money behind you. How do we know you will not be beholden to those people if you got elected?
Well, I mean, first of all, that's not my money, that's a PAC. You know as well as I do that that is not allowed, that we can't be participants in that. So it's not my campaign. Here's the deal. The people that you're talking about, I've seen those ads, Richard Uihlein, Tom Klingenstein, all the people funding that PAC, which is all public, by the way, you can look at it, are some of the biggest and most prolific Republican donors in the entire country. And I think it would be a huge mistake for you if you're going to alienate them when they want to help Maine. Maine Republicans should be thrilled that people like that want to invest here in Maine. That is a fact. And if you are the next Republican nominee for governor, then you should be asking them for their help as well. So I don't see the problem there. I think you're just jealous that they chose me to back for a horse.
David, you got 30 seconds.
Jealousy doesn't run in my blood, right? And so,
You're running now, man.
I'll say this. My money comes from Mainers, right? Mainers, who want me to be their next governor of the state of Maine. And your money, I don't know what you've raised, if you raised anything at all, but you've all of a sudden, you've got all these ads on TV, which are just mind-blowing, right? This isn't what I think a traditional finance campaign is supposed to look like. So I totally disagree with you. I'm not jealous, and if they don't want to support me, you know what? God bless them. The bottom line is the people of the state of Maine will support me, and they've done it since I started this campaign last June, and now all of a sudden, you're throwing these spots out. Sorry, I don't like
I'm
that.
gonna bend the rules, give you 30 seconds, remember this. You can call it up.
So once again, David, your jealousy is showing, okay? The fact of the matter is this: these are the biggest Republican donors in the country, and they see promise in Maine, and they see someone in me that can actually deliver. This is David Jones, all show, no go, never completed any kind of service in the state of Maine at all, saying that he's going to do it. I have actually accomplished the things I'm talking about. David talks about it.
You have to respond. I'm sorry. Yeah, my best qualification is that I am not a politician. Right? I haven't held office. I've owned my own business my entire life. I like you. You're a great guy, but I'm telling you, you're going down the wrong path. The bottom line is we need to make sure whoever becomes the next governor of the state of Maine, he's clean 150%. Bottom line.
All right, Jared, we're going to let this run for a second. But with the audience, please be quiet.
I'll get one question.
Go ahead.
I got one question for you. Why were you begging me for my endorsement before I got in the race then?
I didn't beg you, by the way. I don't beg anybody for anything. I asked you, I said to you, if you're not running, it'd be great if you endorse me. All right, bottom line. So I don't beg. Begging isn't a dangerous trick, bottom line. So I'll say this. I think you're a good guy. I think your intentions are right, but I don't think you're the right guy to be the next governor of the state of Maine. Just because you got in too late and you got the people you got back and you stood there at Charlie Kirk's event and told Charlie Kirk you had $25 million. He came to me and told me.
Are we gonna like let people talk in innuendos if people like back there? I mean, is that what we're really gonna do?
It's true.
We're gonna throw Charlie Kirk's name?
You guys, don't talk over each other, please. All right, we're going to call this round. That was fun. I've been friends with both guys for a long time. That was fun for me personally. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we're gonna move on to round 3. And I'm gonna ask you. Round 4. We're gonna do one more round. Oh, this is not over yet, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna do one more round of this. We'll start with Garrett Mason to make sure he gets to ask a question. Julie, please let Garrett pick a name. Garrett, you have 30 seconds to ask a question.
I got Ben again. I mean,
Throw it back in and pick another.
all right. Hey, I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be nice. Robert.
So you have 30 seconds to ask Robert a question. Robert Wessels.
All right, Robert. So when I was in the legislature, I served on the Energy, Utilities, and Technology Committee. I know you've talked a lot about energy over the past few years that you've been running the campaign. One of the things that I've had my eye on is large-scale solar development in the state. I think all of us agree that that is a horrible, horrible thing. Renewable energy credits that were purchased by these large out-of-state solar developers were then passed on to farmers to take advantage of their land and give them a payout that's guaranteed for 15, 20 years. How are you going to ramp that down so you don't end up hurting generational family farms, but at the same time getting Maine on the right track for energy?
Robert, you have 1 minute to respond.
There for a second, Garrett, I thought you were going to go pro-solar on me. I was like, so yes, you are correct. Just so the audience realizes, I am not pro-solar as far as I'm fine with you having solar. I'm not fine paying for your solar with my tax dollars. I also don't believe that solar or wind are effective or efficient enough for our state to be depending on it. We need to find other solutions, such as small modular. But going to your question, that's a legit question because we as a state have committed that money to these people, farmers or not farmers. And so we have to figure out, number one, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to just go and take $4 billion and throw it at the problem on day one because, again, we have taxation problems, we have spending problems, and so we have to figure out if we can take a bond on that or if we can find that money to slowly impact it.
Garrett, you have 30 seconds to respond.
I guess I totally agree with that answer. I think it does have to be ramped down eventually. But one of the things that I am concerned about, especially with farmers, is that the average farmer makes around $20,000 a year, and they've been given this opportunity and they're taking advantage of it, however bad it was for the state of Maine. And I think whoever the next governor is needs to work to make sure that we untangle ourselves without hurting our generational family farms, and it's a sticky thing.
I appreciate that. We own a farm. We do not own solar on our farm, but we own a farm. And the reality is, again, whether it's a farmer or anybody who has signed up for what is a bad deal for the state, we need somebody in Augusta with integrity who is willing to honor this, even though it is a bad deal and I would never have signed up for it. And so the losers in here should not be the people who have signed up for this. We need to unravel it. We need to do that in a way that is economic for us.
Thank you, Robert. Julie, let's give Julie a chance to pull a name. Jim, once you read the name, you'll have 30 seconds to ask the question.
Ben Midgley. All right, Ben Midgley. Here's my question for you. Are you in favor of health savings accounts, and tell me what they would do if you are?
I mean, yeah, that's a pretty simple question. A lot of folks don't know, actually, in your insurance plans, for a lot of folks, you can take up to $8,300 in a health savings account. And then over time, if you don't use it for your medical expenses, you can convert it to an IRA. So it's a pretty sound investment advice if you want to use your HSA. Is there anything else on that, Jim? For that particular question? Or is it just do I favor HSAs?
No, I mean, there's only 50% of Mainers have them, so how would you expand it?
Well, I think that goes into the question of health insurance in general, right?
Yes.
I think one of the biggest problems in health insurance, and I got a whole book on it, is we have, first of all, no competition. Insurers don't want to be here. We used to have over 30 insurers in the state of Maine, now we have 6. The reason is we've got 400,000 people on Maine care, and it's even in the Portland Press Herald last week, it came to the Portland Press Herald, it's bad, that they're making money up in the private market, which is where your HSAs are coming from. So it's just not a place where insurance companies want to do business. I can give you 20 more examples of how we can fix that, just don't have time.
Well, I'll ask him just to follow up. I mean, here's the thing about being a Republican, right? The other side just says, well, we can just have single payer. So it's going to be incumbent upon us to make sure that we include private insurance as a part of the solution, as opposed to the easiest thing you ever heard is just support single payer, even though, you know, the way that we fractionally pull apart tax obligations, we could never afford it. So how do we do that? How do we make sure that we keep the privates involved?
Question back to me?
Yeah, 30 seconds.
I mean, you have to make it a good place for them to do business, right? They don't want to do business in this state. One of the issues that Robert mentioned was our certificate of need, right? You have to, if you want to put up a new medical facility in the state, you have to ask the competitors if that's okay. Who's going to do that? That's stupid, you know? So, I mean, that's fundamental. But fixing Maine care is the biggest issue to everything insurance-wise in this state, right?
I think that's a very good answer, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Owen, please read the name, and you have 30 seconds for your question.
This is Mr. David Jones. David, it's no surprise probably to you that I care a lot about rural Maine, given I grew up in Patton, Maine. So I want to know sort of how in your administration you would have representation for rural Maine and what you could do for rural Maine.
David, you have 60 seconds to answer.
Well, but some people may not realize, because I used to live in rural Maine, Bingham, and I had a slogan that was called "Bring 'em to Bingham." And I worked my tail off. I bought some old buildings, I was crawling underneath them, jacking them up. I did everything I could to get businesses to come to me. I even talked to Mickey Martin back in the day and asked him to go into the brick building I owned on Main Street in Bingham. But we got to get commerce, right? We got to get commerce and jobs. You know, in order to qualify for grants in community block grants, we got a 52% low to moderate income. Bingham was at 75, 78%. The rural towns are forgotten. That's the other Maine. People don't think about it. I love it. We had a great place up there. We really did. I had 60 acres of land on the Kennebec River. It was an old house with a beautiful place. And you know, my heart, you know, it's in Bingham. So I can tell you this, I will do everything I can to attract businesses and get energy there and make sure they get the technology they need in order to succeed.
Oh, and before you answer, we certainly appreciate everybody being here, and I know it's a very social event, but if you could whisper while you're talking so everyone can hear the candidates, we'd appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, you have 30 seconds.
I got thrown out of a couple of events this year due to talking to the back, so I feel your pain. Rural Maine to me, these people are hardworking people. They get up every single day, they put in a long day's work, jobs have moved out, and I think the old mill towns are places that can rise up like the phoenix in the Trump administration's reindustrialization of America. We need to direct people there, and if we do that, we can make a big difference on rural Maine. And so I know, David, the land of Bingham, whatever it is, Bingham, I think of Valley Cavaliers 100-game win streak in basketball.
Maybe 30 seconds.
Yeah, and they were 6-time Golden Globe winners. I had the governor at the time, and they were a great team. It was a great team. Did you play against them?
My cousin.
Fantastic. Look, you know, rural Maine is a tough place, and it used to be service center town like Bingham. All these small towns, they were thriving. The logging industry was thriving. The government has done so much to destroy the logging industry. In fact, I'll be at that forum they're going to have pretty soon. We need to help people in rural Maine stay alive. Fishermen, loggers, people of the such. We got to bring that industry back. The idea we're going to close all those dams, that's absolutely insane.
Thank you, David. Julie, did you give David a question? David, once you read the name, you have 30 seconds to ask the question.
Yes, on clean elections.
Well, you got it right. So, I ask you this without reading. I've made it pretty clear about my opinion on the unclean election. Right? And so, all these candidates up here are running traditional. You don't want who's running clean, unclean, whatever you want to call it. And so my question to you is, you are going to be asking taxpayers to give you as much as $1.8 million of taxpayer money. I mean, in good conscience, how can we ever have any respect for that? And what's the point of having an act that causes so many areas of concern?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, I have 6 terms of experience in the legislature, and I've seen what the influence of money does. And if you would just remember to a referendum question that we had in the state, there was an overwhelming majority of people that support clean elections. So I want to report right back to every single one of these taxpayers, and only them. I don't want to take any money from hospitals, but I'm going to help hospitals. I don't want to take any money from special interests. I mean, the pharmaceuticals come to mind. I take any money from the communications companies, and they fund the legislature with millions of dollars. And I've seen it because I've been a part of it. I've watched. We should eliminate the clean elections program for the legislature. And that's why I've never taken any money when I ran for the legislature, because I watched the leadership PACs get filled up with all this special interest money. And so, but for governor, there's no PACs, there's none of that. I'm just going to report back to these fine people right here.
So,
Maybe you have 30 seconds.
So you want to get rid of the Clean Elections Act for the people that really need it, and you want to take $1.8 million of taxpayer money for governors? I just don't agree with that at all. I think it's totally wrong. The people that need it, we need to elect the House and the Senate. Right, a governor, if you can't get people to give you the money to run your election, you should not be governor. Now, the bottom line for me is that these people that are running for the House and the Senate are more important than us. If we don't have the House and the Senate, we get a Shanna Bellows, we get a Attorney Fry, we get these people in there's 4 posts that are picked.
Actually, I have more individual donors, I believe, than you do. So I don't know what you're talking about. So I think about $3,200 $5 donations to qualify. Think of how hard that is. And we're right on that number right now, so I'm pretty happy about that. I think it's really important to delineate the difference. The leaders of the legislature set the agenda, and they have leadership PACs, and they're getting their money from the people that jab you in the arm, and I've seen enough of it.
Well, I can assure you, I become governor, the Maine Clean Election Act, we have the House and Senate, will be gone.
David, we got to move on. Julie, would you please give Robert blessings? Robert, would you please read the name, and you have 30 seconds to ask the question.
Bush. Bush again. All right.
Bush, double Bush.
So over the
More Bush for Maine.
I'm not sure how many months of campaigning you got. However, I will say that the vast majority of like 99 or 100.
Robert, can you hang on? Ladies and gentlemen, could we please keep it down? These gentlemen have come here tonight so you can learn about them. It is impossible to do if they cannot be heard. Please. Robert, go ahead.
The vast majority of our conversations and questions are very, very important ones. They're economic and about the future of Maine.
Yeah.
So many important ways. What I don't get to hear about is social aspects. And so can you tell me just clearly what your stance is on abortion?
Jonathan, you have 60 seconds to answer the question.
I feel like we live in a free society. I have 7 children. That was not my master plan. That was someone else's plan. But I also believe in world peace until someone tries to shove it down my throat. And so while I believe in life, while in church I pray for those who are facing that choice, I believe that when the government steps into someone else's journey and inflicts their view on those people, they are destroying that person's opportunity to discover Christ for themselves. So I am a firm believer that the right place for Maine to be is where it was, which was at 24 weeks. So when life is sustainable, when the fetus can survive, you can't have an abortion. But before that, it's your journey, and I wish you luck.
Thank you for that. This is one of the areas, obviously, we disagree on. I do believe in the sanctity of life, and I believe life begins at conception. I think it's going to be one of those that we agree to disagree on.
Jonathan, you got 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think we will. I also think, as a matter of the larger interests of the Republican Party, the surest way to keep us out of the House, the Senate, the governor's mansion, and every district attorney's seat is to try to inflict that overwhelmingly unpopular view using the force of law, men with guns, on people who firmly disagree. I think that's a dangerous role for the government. This is a government that is too big, not too small. This government does not need more things to enforce upon people. It needs less.
Thank you, Jonathan. Jonathan, once you get the name, please read it. You have 30 seconds to ask the question.
Okay. Garrett?
Yes, sir.
All right. Garrett. Since 2014, our beloved Maine Republican Party has lost 14,000 members. We have lost the governor's mansion, we have lost the House, and we have lost the Senate. We are down to one district attorney in the entire state and no judges. What, in your view, caused this series of devastating losses, and what might we do to reverse the curse going forward?
Garrett, you have 60 seconds.
I think that's a really good question, and I think it goes to something you talked about earlier, Jonathan, about how do we party build, how do we make things bigger, and I've spent the entire time I was in the legislature doing exactly that. You know where we didn't lose ground in 2014 and 2016, and that was in the state Senate. And that's because I went down and I recruited people from all over the country. We actually recruited 66 people through an internship that I developed for House, Senate, Governor, congressional campaigns, and we went out and we won the legislature. Against all odds in 2014 and 2016, we kept the majority. In fact, I'm standing to you here as the only living Republican majority leader that has ever served back-to-back terms. So how do we rebuild the party? We go talk to people at their doors. We raise money. We do the work that is necessary to win an election. I've done it before. I've won majorities, and I can do it again.
Jonathan, you have 30 seconds.
When Maine was losing the House, the Senate, the membership in the Republican Party, and by the way, the mills, the businesses with it, I was building 1,000 jobs in Maine. I wasn't really paying attention to what party was where. I wasn't in the system. And when I picked myself up, I was dismayed because the Republican Party had not built the business community. They had their own programs that they believed in more than other programs, but they were not setting free the free market. What this party must do differently is obsessively focus on shrinking the government and awakening the free market in Maine.
Garrett, 30 seconds.
You know, in regards to party building, I guess in all due respect, while I was out there winning majorities, we could have been donating money to people to get elected to office. And that's what I did when I was in the legislature. And we won majorities because of it. And so I'm the only person on this stage that's actually won a majority. I can do it again.
Thank you, Garrett. Julie, would you give individually the last opportunity in this round?
Bobby Charles.
But don't play. Actually ask the question. Don't play.
All right, so Owen, with your business startup background, what changes would you make to the Department of Economic and Community Development?
Well,
Thanks for the question, Ben. And I want to bring up a prop here. I released a plan, Maine 2040, build to lead again, build on opportunity, affordability, and discipline. And we cover that on page 23. And let me talk to you about one of the initiatives that we're going to do. That's the Maine Means Business Initiative. One is about retention. We're going to meet with the top 100 employers in the state, find out what they need to stay here. We're going to know a lot of the answers, but we'll learn a lot about them. Two is recruitment. We're going to hire a team of hunters that go out there and hunt in the areas where we have a competitive advantage. I have raised $60 million of venture capital for my company. I've done $100 million deals. I am willing to call the Pope, and I think that our team will be willing to do that to get them to come relocate in Maine, and we're going to incubate. We're going to make sure that those entrepreneurs that want to build, whether it be from Patton to Prescott or Portland, they have the resources to go and do that.
Yeah. Thank you, Warren. 30 seconds.
Everything Owen says, I think it's the smallest department in the state government, it's got like 40 employees.
Yeah.
Good answer.
All right, we're gonna transition right now to the third round. We're a little behind on time. Initially, I was gonna ask each of you some questions.
Closing statement.
No, that was the third round. We did 2 of each. So we've got a couple questions I'm gonna ask you. I'm not gonna ask a lot of them as I planned. And then we have some candidates here that are gonna ask you a question. So this is gonna go to all of you. We'll start with Garrett. And the question is, your family doesn't count. What is the best thing you have personally done for Maine?
So I think the thing that I'm most proud of is in my first term in the legislature, we passed the charter school legislation. In that bill, we had 10 fully functioning public charter schools that were authorized for use. I think it's, you talk about school choice and passionate about school choice. This is one of the things that we did to start moving Maine down the path of that. And I'm really, really proud of that. It serviced thousands and thousands of kids. And it's a great model because you find what works and you get rid of the things that don't. The school's not working, you get rid of it and open a new one. So legislatively, that's the thing that I really care deeply, deeply about. Yeah, I don't know how much time we have. Okay, 15 seconds. But I'm really proud of that. I'm very, very proud of that legislation. So.
Thank you, Garrett. Let's try to keep the answers to James to 60. Jim, same question. Not your family, but what is the best thing you personally have done for Maine?
I think the best thing I've ever did was to, there was a list of 6 different candidates for a new Poland Spring plant, and we were competing against a location in Pennsylvania as well. And so I helped to write the TIF, and then I led the local vote effort. And I remember the Portland Press Herald saying in a typical Portland Press Herald article that we were going to lose the vote, and we ended up winning that vote. I think it was like 168 to 18 or something like that. And that created 500 jobs in Hollis, clean jobs, and I'm just so proud of it.
Thank you. Owen, same question. What's the best thing you've done for Maine?
I think it was a decision to move my company, which we started for the first 6 months in Boston, to the state of Maine. And that company, Med Rhythms, is one that helps people improve walking if you have a stroke or live with Parkinson's disease. And we use some interesting science, how you use rhythm and music to help people walk better. My co-founder was doing this manually. We built it into a product that you can ship to someone's home, and they can use it no matter where they are. And it's particularly good for places that have lack of access to healthcare to help them improve walking. Jobs here, and high-tech jobs, high-paying jobs in engineering and regulatory in compliance. We also, though I hate compliance, but it's healthcare, so you need it. We also raised $60 million of capital into that company in multiple tranches. And I think it shows that you can do innovation here. You don't need to be in Silicon Valley. You don't need to be in Austin. It'd be much better if we got government out of the way, though.
Thank you. David Jones, same question.
Yes, please. Greatest thing I ever did for the state of Maine was in 2016. I went to the Republican National Committee in Cleveland, Ohio. And after being there, I came home and talked with Ray and Demi and everybody else. We created a super PAC. It's called Making Maine Great Again. It was a super PAC we created to get President Trump elected in 2016. So, we came 22,000 votes away from turning the state of Maine red. 22,000 votes. We organized people, fellow Republicans worked together. It was a hell of an endeavor. I didn't do it by myself, but we all did it because we all cared. I took 6 months of my life off, not selling any real estate, didn't make a penny for 6 months while I was doing this, and we won. We had the only victory party. We had it at the Regency in Portland, and we had over 300 people there. So that was a great night, and I think that I'm very proud of having done that.
Thank you, David. Robert, same question. You know the question.
So I'm a numbers guy. I'm one of those weird guys where if you just give me a budget and a problem, that's a good Friday night. And I look at this skill and this life experience and said, we should do something with this. And for the last 20 years, I have spent time every year coaching people, helping people with their personal finances or their business finances, creating budgets with them, working through problems, figuring things out, and changing their lives. The benefit to me is, so I do it all for free, but the benefit to me, just this last weekend, somebody sent me a text and they said, hey, just wanted to let you know we paid off our house. You have no idea how this feels. I do, actually, but the reality is that I've been changing lives through budgeting and personal finance and guiding them. And I absolutely love budgets and can't wait to get in on the state's budget.
Thank you, Robert. Jonathan Bush, other than your own family, what's the best thing you've ever done for Maine?
I'm the only candidate running in either party that's built 1,000 jobs in Maine. I got the board to consent, I got the town to consent, I got the state to consent, and went into an abandoned credit card processing center and an abandoned conference center that was empty and broke, and I woke it back up. First 6 people, then 12 people, and over time, all the way to 1,000 people. When you go to Belfast today, you can see the difference. Over the 15 years that I was growing that business, Waldo County net income per citizen grew at 4 times the rate of the rest of the state of Maine. This is a playbook. This is a playbook we need to repeat everywhere. I have already repeated it with devoted help, with included help, with Notify. I have brought 4 other major companies to Maine during my time as board member of Maine and Company and as an alumni there. And this is what I intend to do. This is a playbook that the governor must execute relentlessly to wake this beloved state back up.
Thank you, Jonathan. Another question.
That's a good question, Rick. Honestly, I'm going to say the biggest thing that myself has done for the state is running for office, and I got to give that. I got to give that credit to all these guys. It's a big commitment and part of everybody. It's because everybody wants to make positive change for what's happening in Maine. This has been the worst 7-year stretch we've had in a long time. A lot of people are feeling pain, so you got a lot of people here standing up trying to make things right. On the personal side, we have tried tirelessly to change our school system. We've had all sorts of efforts to get schools back where they should be for our kids. You got to get politics out of schools and just get kids learning the basics again. And then on a personal level, Sonia and I dedicated a tremendous amount of support to veterans. My father was a 2021 Legionnaire of the Year, and he really showed us that he saw us out.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Father, for his service to our nation. All right, this is going to be completely and wholly unfair to the 7 of you, but we're running short on time. James, if you could set the clock to 45 seconds. There are 5 pillars to Maine's economy: infrastructure, educated workforce, regulations, taxation, and affordable, abundant energy. Because we have guests here that we want to get to, I'm only going to ask you on one of those. It's going to be to all of you. We do not have affordable, abundant energy. Anybody that's opened up their electricity bill knows they can barely pay it. Best rumor that I have is that 113,000 homes in the state of Maine on April 15th, when the winter rules go away, will get a disconnection notice. That represents almost 500,000 Mainers. It's unaffordable. One of the biggest problems we face is Kathy Hochul of New York and Maura Healey of Massachusetts have blocked a natural gas pipeline from Pennsylvania where we can get cheap natural gas. In the winter, we typically buy it from Trinidad and Tobago at 10 times the cost. So here's the 45-second question. Owen, I'll start with you. How do you get Maura Healey and Kathy Hochul to help New England out?
Well, first of all, you need to go straight to the Trump administration and start working with them, because the federal government hasn't. And second of all, they're feeling the pain in Massachusetts and New York as well. Their people are going to revolt down there. We need to also, Maine's not going to do this, but we're going to message to the people, because that pipeline needs to get built. It's the Algonquin pipeline that you're talking about. It's really convenient because we can double the diameter of the pipe without having to get a new right of way and get more gas into the state. And so I'm excited to call President Trump and work on that.
You've done your homework. Been vigilant. Quickly, same question, 45 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, that's the right answer. I mean, it is. Kathy Hochul is bending now. I think they're working on a deal with her, maybe to give her a little more money for offshore wind. But it was just in the journal this morning. You know, she's now taking this. A Democrat governor is now taking a stance against high energy prices and against the climate plan. And now Maine is out there trying to be ahead of California, ahead of Oregon, ahead of New York. So at least now that these Democrat governors are doing it, we're going to have a good chance of seeing positive change in here. Well, obviously, when the Democrats lose, but it's changing across the country.
Robert Wessex.
The benefit or not benefit of going third, ultimately, I absolutely agree. We have to work with them. We have to really use public pressure as well to be able to get to the people in Massachusetts and in their states. But the reality is we may need to go legal as well. If push comes to shove, that is not going to be the first. Again, I agree. Let's get President Trump's administration involved. But if we have to, we may have to take it to court.
Thank you. David Jones.
All right, good. Yeah, everything you've said so far is 100% spot on. But you know what? I always look at myself as a deal maker, not a deal breaker. And you know, we've got to step up. We've got to work with the federal government. Absolutely have to get them in our court. And the federal government does have some ability to put some pressure on these states. And you know, if you go down, but it all comes down to it. We're all human beings. We all bleed red. And you know, Kathy Hochul or not, you know, I'm sure she bleeds red. And I think there's a way to convince her by going public and talking to the people, her constituents, and make them realize how much money she's wasting by not allowing that pipeline to come through. It'll take some work, but you know, like I said, I'm a deal maker, not a deal breaker.
Garrett Mason.
You're killing me. My answer was so bad. So yes, you are absolutely right that Kathy Hochul and Maura Healey have stopped this pipeline. And what you have to do is you have to have an attorney general who's willing to bring them to the Supreme Court right away and sue them for violation of the Commerce Clause. And that's something that I will do right away. The second thing you have to do is you have to do an immediate fix. Right now, I would go and ask the president for a waiver from the Jones Act, which would allow us to use foreign flag vessels to go from the Gulf of America buying American energy and come into Massachusetts. You can get that waiver. The first time it was given a waiver was under President Biden, after Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. He would give us that waiver, and we need to have it. Those two things, you unleash energy infrastructure in the state.
Jim Libby.
Well, I'm here to tell you that you've all been ripped off because the CMP corridor delivers that electricity to a Massachusetts company. We get about 120 some odd $1 million a year on that deal. They get $5 billion in market sales every single year. So I'm going to join with President Trump. We're going to put pressure on Massachusetts, and we're going to renegotiate that. And you need to understand that we should never have allowed that to happen. It's an absolute atrocity. Thank you.
Jonathan Bush, you close us out.
right, I'll add, because pounding away on, yeah, we of course should be able to have natural gas, that's right there for us. But we also have a last mile problem with natural gas. If you look at the cement, Dragon cement plant in Thomaston, that was shut down because they were forbidden access to existing natural gas just across town by people proclaiming that they were environmentalists. So in addition to getting Trump access to natural gas and getting Trump access, I would say, to hydropower for ourselves, we need to get a pry bar against little groups that block last mile access to natural gas that we need for both heat and electricity and industrial growth.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. All right. We have 3 compatriots here, and they are compatriots. They're running for the legislature, and they want to be able to serve alongside one of you. So we're going to each ask you a question. Kenny Trinket, tell them who you are and what office you're running.
Thanks, guys. I'm Ken. I know a bunch of you guys, but I'm Kenny Trinket. I'm going to be your next senator from the great town of Wingman. God willing, I'll be the 18th vote as well. My question to you is simple. I am very grateful. The Democrats don't have this. We have 7 business-oriented people on the stage. We are very, very lucky to have that in this party right now. My question to you is simple. Bill Diamond, late great Bill Diamond, God rest his soul, served his entire life for the children. In his final years, his mission was to eradicate, we touched about this earlier, eradicate the fact that we are #1 in the nation with childhood deaths at the hands of child abuse. DHHS has failed. End of story. My question to you is this: as businessmen, as honorable men, and I believe all of you are, who here, and this by show of hands, you don't need to respond, or you can say I do, that's great. This goes for posterity. You will be held accountable for this. I will be your biggest advocate in the Senate to get this done. And if you betray this, I will be the biggest pain in your ass. I guarantee you that much. By show of hands, who here agrees to implement not just Bill's plans, LD 555 and the other plans that are out there? Who's willing to recognize that we need to solve the problem? The bureaucrats are the problem. The politicians are stonewalling for the bureaucrats. Who here is going to help us implement plans to eradicate this problem? And if we do not win on the first time, we will try again until we are successful. Show me your hand.
James, we're going to give each one of them 30 seconds. We'll just go down the line. Garrett, start with you.
Yeah, and congratulations on running again, Kenny. And I think, people who put their name forward don't get it first time. Thank you for doing it again. I appreciate that. One thing I will say is I sat down with Bill shortly before he passed, and I completely agree with the Walk a Mile plan. One addition I would make: I worked with Bill when I was in the legislature to increase funding for the computer crimes unit. They saved an incredible amount of children by going through and stopping pedophilia, stopping and rescuing kids. Maine has one of the best computer crime units in the entire country, and we need to fund them more because that's the most horrific child abuse.
Sorry, I went to Bill Diamond's home in June, and you can talk to Jane if you don't believe it, but I went to Bill Diamond's home in June, and I made him a promise. First of all, he said something to me that I was just blown away by. He said, "You're qualified to be governor," and I was blown away by that. But I made him a promise that I would carry out his plan, and Kenny, I think you know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. McCarthy, 30 seconds.
Kenny, that's page 58. So if you want to go to www.voteformaine.com and have a cheeseburger at Eric's church, we can talk about how you think about the plan.
Thank you, Owen. Dave Jones, 30 seconds.
Well, it was right here in this room that Bill Diamond came to one of the forums, and for many years, he's been a guest on Ray's show, and I've had the pleasure of being there with him. And I stood here and I gave Bill a hug, and I promised him that if I became governor, that I would absolutely do everything that he wanted to get done. So you have my solemn word. I gave it to him. Rest in peace, Bill Diamond. We all miss you.
First off, go Kenny for sending, absolutely in your corner. As far as the plan, I'm absolutely 100% behind Bill Diamond's plan. But the other piece to this is there is a leadership crisis in DHHS. This is not the only aspect of it that is failing. So we have to replace Sarah Gagne Holmes immediately and get a leader in there with integrity that is willing to change the culture. It is an absolutely toxic culture, that it fuels retaliation, and I'm out of time. Thank you.
Robert, thank you. Before we go to Jonathan, how many people here have a Kenny Berseni hat on? Just raise them up. I saw him being handed out earlier. All right, Jonathan, same question, 30 seconds.
If you go to mainforkeeps.com, you'll see the last podcast that Bill did about 8 days before he died. We spent an hour talking about this. And the one thing I would add on top of what he proposes is a refocusing of the DHS responsibility set. There are numerous activities that are below the level of government enforcement that they are doing at the expense of the time and focus that they need, where the government is actually the right way to solve the problem.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for last words on this one.
There's a lot of details you can talk about in terms of how the whole department of DHHS, which is has to. But the one thing I'm going to say is that Bill Diamond was in about the third year of that organization. It was phenomenal. Actually, what showed me and Sonia what the problem was. And I can tell you, right now, I can promise you, without letting the cat out of the bag, that his legacy is not going to die. And that organization will be back stronger than ever.
Thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Ethan Mon, a longtime Saco resident. My wife and I grew up here and now raising our 2 young children here. I'm running for House District 126 because Maine needs more common sense policies. I want Maine to be a place where my kids and the next generation can stay, not just to live, but to thrive and raise families of their own. Speaking of common sense, many people in Saco have recently learned that there's a proposal already at the DOT level to reduce Route 1 from 2 travel lanes each way down to 1 and add bicycle lanes. Yeah. In speaking with residents and business owners along that corridor, many say they were never even notified and haven't been given a form to weigh in. This is another way that our state makes it harder to do business here. How would you work in Augusta to ensure residents and businesses are included in nonsense decisions like this before they advance?
Thank you. That's a great question. And it's all true, and it's all lawful. If you live down that way, you know how bad it is. The government is running roughshod over the people down there. Ben, let's start with you, 30 seconds. How can you help the folks out down there?
Would you repeat the last part of the question?
How would you work in Augusta to ensure residents and businesses statewide are included in nonsense decisions like this before they can advance?
Well, I mean, you have certain requirements already for public hearings and so on and so forth. So if that is not adequate, then you have to just work with the Department of Transportation to make sure they're getting full and adequate feedback and make sure the legislature has its input. So you have all proper steps and reviews in place before something like this goes into action.
Thank you, Ben.
I would add, I have this nervous tick where I count the number of people on the giant government-sponsored buses that go by. My record is 6 people in the 60-seat bus. The number of things that are inflicted upon us by a tiny little clutch of people that are trying to outdo each other in performative environmentalism is absurd. We need to refocus. I'm sure there's something about democracy and inclusiveness with communities, but there's also just an end to inanity that needs to happen that the governor can do by matter of management and executive action.
So Robert is going to be the last person on this question because we have one more we want to ask you. Robert, go ahead.
In this day and age, with communication being what it is, it's mind-blowing to me that you guys have not received communication. We can absolutely continue to use, I'm thinking of the state resources and how not up to date it is currently. We could use snail mail, right? And we can confirm with people that they've received that. To me, I think the bigger part of this is the communication is the least of it, right? It's the regulation, it's the bureaucracy that is going on here that we absolutely have to address and take care of in Augusta. And then, yes, we can fix the communication too.
Thank you, Robert. All right, we're going to move on from this one, and we have another questioner who is running for office.
Good evening, folks. The other Kenny for Senate right here. Leo Kenny ran for Senate in 2024, lost by 132 votes. So we're back to join the party this year in 2026. And just want to say it's so refreshing hearing common sense being espoused by our future governor on the stage here. It's been 8 years of zero common sense, so this is refreshing. My question is healthcare related. I'm from an Orono, Old Town Bangor area, and everyone, I assume it's across the state, but healthcare is crumbling. Maternity wards are closing. It's impossible to get a doctor appointment. So, as governor, what is your role to stabilize our healthcare?
Let me start with you, Gary. 30 seconds.
I just have to say first, heroic Senate run. You almost took out one of the senators that I really wanted to get rid of in Mike Tipping, so keep at it. But what I would say is this: there's a bill in the legislature that just failed, one that I was working on, that would have reduced premiums for specifically farmers from about $1,400 a month to $500 a month. And the Democrats in the legislature would not vote for it because they preferred universal health care. We have to provide better options. There's so many answers around health care. I wish I had more time, but that's a specific example of something we could do to reduce premiums.
Thank you, Gary. Jim Levine, 30 seconds.
We're going to freeze eligibility for Maine care because currently people are eligible who are single, young, no family. And we have to freeze it, not changing any of the eligibility of the people that are on it, but organically shrink it. In New Hampshire, they have 187,000 people on the New Hampshire care program. We have 400,000 people that we're paying for, and they don't need Medicaid. So we're going to absolutely, and that's what's causing the hospitals to close, the providers not to be. It's imploding as we speak.
Thank you, Jim. Paul McCarthy, 30 seconds.
Yeah, access is the big problem. So for me, my hometown of Patton, Maine, if you want to have a baby, you have to drive an hour and a half to the nearest labor and delivery unit. That is not sustainable. I think there's an opportunity to use the rural health transformation funds to backstop that and bring those communities back. On access, we can do more via telemedicine and reciprocity with bringing clinicians in from other states where we have a shortage. We have a shortage of a lot of them. So that way, the people that actually go to the emergency room are the ones that need to be there. And that's, the answer is way longer than this, and I'll have more on top.
Thank you, Rowan. David Jones, you'll be the last one to answer on this question.
Options. That's what we have to do. We have to increase our options here in the state of Maine. And I think, but as far as Maine care goes, we got a problem. We got 400,000 people. That's almost 1/3 of the state of Maine that's on Maine care. And I think we should have each and every one of them reapply and make sure that each one and every one of them actually qualify to be on Maine care. We've got fraud. We've got an abundance of fraud here in the state of Maine, which drives our costs up through the roof. So if we get more people competing for our business, that's the number one thing. Give us as buyers more options. Thank you.
Thank you, David. All right, we're going to move to closing statements. Originally, we planned to do 2 minutes, but the night has run long, so we're going to do 1 minute closing statements. Garrett, let's start with you.
Well, thank you everybody so much for having us tonight. Thank you for Two Common Sense for Maine for hosting this event. You guys have done some really important work in getting prepared for 2026, helping the legislative candidates that we just heard from, whoever the candidate is for governor. I think that groundwork is really going to make a difference on election night in November. Tonight, you're welcome. Tonight, I think that you heard all of us talk. I think one thing I'd like to leave you with is this. Among the men on the stage, I don't think that there's a lot of disagreement on the things that need to happen. How to do it. I truly believe that we need somebody who knows on day one, even before that, how to do the job right away. I believe that I am that candidate. I would love to have your vote. Please visit masonformaine.com, learn more about me, learn more about the campaign. I would love to have your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Garrett. Dr. Bush, on your birthday, your 1 minute close.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for leading in this early to make this useful, to make a change in Maine that we desperately need. I've said what we need to do. We need to reverse this woke agenda that is toxifying and distracting the ability for people to learn and grow in this state and to live. We need to shrink our taxes dramatically. We need to shrink Augusta dramatically. And then we need to build our economy so that everyone here knows this is a place where the American dream is thriving. I believe that to do that, we need to hire an outsider who is a disruptor and a competent CEO. Competent CEOs sweat the details. They know how to get down to a small number of metrics that they ride relentlessly morning, noon, and night. Competent CEOs model the way and don't get distracted in noisy reindeer games or in strategies that we know can't lose. Competent CEOs move mountains relentlessly over time, bite by bite. That's what I want to do here, and I look forward to earning your vote.
Thank you, Jonathan. Jim Libby, you're up next. 1 minute close.
Sure, I like to tell people in my closing that people think I'm a career politician. Did you know that every single term that I've worked at another job full-time, and the first session of the 131st, I was an economist at Colby, I was a full-time professor in my 23rd year at Thomas College, and I was a state senator. I've got the capacity that you need. I've got all the experience and the expertise that you need. I'm going to be able to solve these problems. I know exactly how to do it. So you need somebody that is seasoned, yes, but you need somebody that understands government, business, education, and all about Maine's heritage industries. I can't wait to work with you.
Thank you, Jim. David Jones, 1 minute, please.
An outsider, a businessman, a non-politician, a guy who has worked his way through life, a guy that understands problems, a guy that is not afraid to get into a fight, a guy that knows how to bring the fight to where it needs to be. That's what we need this time. We need major structural changes here in the state of Maine. We have 15,000 people. We had 10,000 when Paul left office. We've got way too many people who are spending money like drunken sailors in port. It's a shame what's happened here in the past 7.5 years. I promise you this, you elect me as your next governor. I will work as hard and diligently and as smart as you could ever expect a gubernatorial candidate to do. You will not be dissatisfied with my work. I promise you, I humbly ask that each and every one of you please support me to be the next nominee to represent the Republican Party here in the state of Maine. Thank you very much.
I believe the future of Maine can be bright, but it can't be bright if we keep trotting out 1960 solutions and saying, give it more time and give it more money. It's not going to work. We're in a crisis moment. In a crisis moment, we need a long-range plan. We have that in Maine 2040. I am an outsider engineer, an entrepreneur, and I think outside the box, and I solve problems. My feet are firmly rooted here. My vision is on the future. I can talk to any of you about sawmills or software and can lead us into that new future. I think that we need to make sure that we build a Maine that's more than just vacation land for wealthy people. That we build it such that you can live, work, and prosper. That we build a Maine that no matter if you grew up in a double wide on the outskirts of Presque Isle or a trailer off a dirt road in Patton, you can use your God-given talents to reach your highest potential with nothing, especially not your state government standing in your way. Thank you, everyone. I'm going with Owen.
Thank you, Owen. Jim Mitchell, 1 minute close, please.
It's supposed to be 2 minutes, right? So, I'm gonna stand up once. This whole lot, I think I'm the only person who hasn't stood up. So, in any case, I've run billion-dollar companies, and I have created billion-dollar companies from scratch. It's an experience very few people have ever been through. So it gives me all the experience I need to very fluently and effectively run the state government. That being said, I also have an incredible team around me. Some of the deepest political minds in the state, and they are the team that has won governor races before. So you put those two things together, that is a formidable adversary to the Democrats in the general election. That being said, the only way we can win this election is by getting independents and disenfranchised Democrats to come over to our side. We are outnumbered by 40,000 registered Republicans. So all of you are the only ones who can make the decision in terms of who is best to bring forward. You have a lot of great candidates here. I feel that we are the best team to give you the best chance to win in the general election. Thank you.
Yeah! Closing out the night for us.
Thank you for the opportunity, and we need an everyday person who is connected with you and understands what's going on. We have a lot of great guys that are running, and I'm happy with them. I am the Unity candidate, and I want you to go to Vote Robert Wessels to check out my site, learn more. But more than that, we need you. Your passion tonight has been contagious, it's wonderful. We need you to be active. These guys, we can't do it all. We just saw this in the Lewiston election, right? There was a special election, and we did not have the ground game that we needed to win it. Okay, we can do that in 2026, but it's not going to be us up here. So find your favorite candidate up here, jump in, join, door knock, help send text messages, help do calls, make it happen. We will not be able to do it alone, and we need your help. Thank you.
Robert, thank you. How about a big round of applause for all the candidates tonight? Ladies and gentlemen, we have a couple of housekeeping things very quickly. Many of you were involved in the 50-50. We're going to pull that ticket right now.
Before we review the number, if you live in Old Orchard, Mike Petrano in the back corner needs your signatures on some days. If you live in Old Orchard. Old Orchard Beach, excuse me. Winning number is 992839. 992839.